Today we're doing two NFL player props here on PrizePicks for Monday Night Football. Monday, October 2nd, we got the Seahawks versus the New York Giants here. Again, I feel like we've seen the New York Giants on primetime now. This is like the third time we've seen them on primetime. They played Thursday Night Football, they played Sunday Night Football, and now we get them again on Monday Night Football. I don't know. I said before I'm kind of over watching the Giants on primetime, but again, we have to, you know, take what we have to work with, I guess you could say. But again, before I get started, you guys, check out the link in the description below. You guys can check out the premium Discord, $9.30 per month. It's where I post all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks. We also have some other premium cappers in there as well that post all of theirs, plays, research, and analysis. Again, I also need to mention I'm not a gambling expert, and this is not financial advice. These are simply just the plays I'm personally looking at making, hopefully giving you guys some insight and analysis to make your own player prop decisions here. Again, no one is pressing submit on those parlays other than yourselves. But we had a tough beat yesterday, I guess, for the Sunday plays. We had Javonte Williams over 12 fantasy score. He gets hurt in the first quarter. It just kind of cooked the entire prop. And Brian Robinson finished with 6 receiving yards. We had him over 6.5. He finished with 2 catches. He had the first catch for 6 yards, and I even was thinking when I saw that, it's like I really hope he gets another chance or another catch, and he gets a second catch for 0 yards. So just a tough beat yesterday. Looking to definitely bounce back here for Monday Night Football. I got 2 player props that I am targeting for this game. Don't want to waste any time. Let's just get right into the video. So the first play is going to be a fantasy score prop, and I feel like just the safest overall play here for the Giants. It's going to be Daniel Jones over 16.5 fantasy score here against a pretty poor Seattle defense. So we look at Daniel Jones this season. He's only over in this season. He's played, like I said, 2 of the best defense, probably the 2 best defenses in the NFL, besides maybe the Browns and the Ravens, but the Cowboys and the Giants. And these are the 2 primetime games we saw Daniel Jones, right? 6.46 fantasy, then 4.98 fantasy. His other game against the Arizona Cardinals, he finished with 31.74 fantasy. But let's just get into why I like this. So taking a look at this, weather should not be a factor here. It was nice in New York last night for the Giants-Chiefs. We get the same stadium in this game. Weather shouldn't be a factor. Seattle's 1.5-point favorites here with a 47 over/under, which in comparison, like the Jets-Chiefs over/under was 41.5. 47 over/under for this matchup with these 2 teams, I think is pretty good. I definitely think a game environment for Daniel Jones to be able to clear this line. But we look at Daniel Jones specifically last season, right? Like 16.5 fantasy. He cleared the over on this numerous times last season. Like more specifically, including the playoffs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 12, 13 times last season, you guys. He cleared the over of this 16.5. Like here, look at this at Dallas week 13 or at Dallas week 12, 16.8 fantasy, which is essentially all we would need tonight. 228 passing, 1 passing touchdown, 14 yards rushing, and he would clear the over on this. Like literally, guys, it's not that much. It's not that much production here from Daniel Jones to be able to clear the over on this, and it is just an elite matchup. First of all, we take a look at his splits last season, home versus away. He's played much better at home, like much better at home, right? 1,700 in the air, a little bit higher pass completion percentage, throws more touchdowns, higher passer rating overall, and then the rushing, 200 more yards rushing at home. Again, I feel like home versus away really impacts quarterbacks quite a bit. And we even just look at last season. Like, look how many times his 2 highest scoring fantasy score games came at home. And then really, if we take a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of his, what is that? 1, 2, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 9 of his 14 highest fantasy scoring games came at home. So just the home versus away, I really think impacts the quarterback and their ability. But looking at the Seattle Seahawks' poor defense, right? They've only played 3 games, but through 3 games have given up 24.4 fantasy points per game to the quarterback position through 3 games, right? Or actually, let's refresh this because I mean, I don't know if they've refreshed this. Oh, here we go. So through 3 games, let's refresh this. Here we go. Through 3 games, Seahawks 24.4%, 24.4 fantasy points per game to the quarterback position, which is the tied for down here for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 most, but they've only played 3 games. All these other teams have played 4 games, right? So we look at points, total points. The Seahawks total points to the quarterback position, 73.4. So I mean, Daniel, after this game tonight, I think Daniel Jones gets 17, 18 fantasy points. They should jump up here back into the top 5 as far as most total fantasy points per game to the quarterback position. But they've just been giving up a ton of production overall. You can see your yards per attempt, 7.7, which is the 6th most yards per attempt overall to the quarterback position. We look at quarterbacks this season, game log versus the Seahawks. We saw Jared Goff go for 23.9 fantasy, Andy Dalton go for 23.5 fantasy, And then Matt Stafford threw for 334 yards, didn't have a touchdown, and obviously not a ton of rushing stats, but finished with 14.5 on just pure passing yards. So all three quarterbacks this season versus the Seahawks have thrown for 320 plus passing yards. Stafford, Dalton, and Jared Goff have all thrown for 320 plus. I mean, they allowed Andy Dalton at home to throw for 361 and two touchdowns, 23.5 fantasy score. Like, in Andy Dalton, Matt Stafford, and Jared Goff have no rushing ability. We look at Daniel Jones, his rushing ability. We know he can run the ball, and we know him running the ball really, really increases his odds of getting this fantasy score line, right? Look at these rush yards for Daniel Jones. We know he can run the ball. We know I would say he's almost a dual threat quarterback. Like, he is a dual threat, but like, you don't consider him in the same like classes like Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields, right? But he is a quarterback that has the ability to run the football. And then we take a look here over on Daily Grind Fantasy. And again, a research tool that I use every single day. There's a link for a 7-day free trial over on Daily Grind. And they take all the sports books and all the player prop odds on sports books to create a fantasy score line. And you can see here, based on the odds on DraftKings, he's supposed to be at 20 fantasy score. Based on Barstool, 60.6, Caesars, 19.6, and Bovada, 20.1. So Daily Grind here, combining all those, giving this 16.5 highest fantasy score odd to hit of any player prop tonight. 56.48 odds to hit the over on this 16.5 fantasy score line. I definitely think possibly this has a chance to bump up to 17 at 16.5. I really do like the over on this, trying to get this video out as soon as possible to everyone here. But yeah, Daniel Jones, just given the matchup and given how there's no Saquon Barkley, he's going to have to throw the ball. It's literally like, I mean, I don't trust Matt Breida to take a ton of touches. I think Matt Breida last week had like 5 or 6, 7 carries. Like, Daniel Jones, it was the Daniel Jones show, and a game that should be hopefully a high-scoring potential type of shootout atmosphere, with the Seahawks offense being pretty prolific as well. So I like Daniel Jones over 16.5 fantasy score as the first play. The second play here is going to be DK Metcalf. It's going to be his over 63.5 receiving yards. Now, I'm expecting just the entire betting community to be on this play, just overall, given the matchup. But yeah, let's just get into why I like this. I think for all the Seahawks props, this is, to me, probably the safest. Just given the opportunity and how easily DK could hit this line, especially on a primetime game like this on the road. So taking a look at DK Metcalf, he obviously sees the highest target share on the Seahawks. You can see here, and running a ton of routes, 25, 60.2, and 19.2 target percentage. Obviously running a ton of routes, except for that week 1 game against the Rams, which I think really shocked them. But coming off back-to-back weeks of 6 receptions in both of these games, and just given how DK Metcalf has that big playability, he's not catching a bunch of passes like underneath. So, I mean, if we can get 6 catches, that should be enough to clear the over on this line. Like 6 catches, even 5 catches, even 4 catches, guys, honestly, should be enough to clear this line for DK Metcalf. But it's just a strong matchup. So we take a look over on Outlier. Again, there's a link in the description below this video as well. You get a 7-day free trial with Outlier. Their mobile app is absolutely insane. This is also a research tool that I use every single day. But he's minus 154 on Caesars, you guys. Minus 154 on Caesars to go over 62.5 receiving yards. Minus 154, right? We just take a look at to go over 59.5, he's at minus 148. To go over 49.5, he's at minus 235, you guys. So at 63.5 currently on PrizePicks, I definitely think this has a chance to bump up as well. Taking a look at some other things, right? Look at this over on Fantasy Pros. Again, shout out to Fantasy Pros, by the way. You can see here, Metcalf has commanded an 18.4% target share, a 36.4% air yard share, and a 25.9% first read share. Against man coverage, which is what the Giants play a ton, I think they're like 5th most, which I'll get to in a second. Metcalf is the team's best weapon. His target share against man climbs to 25%, while his air yard share is 61%, and the first read rate balloons to 30%. Metcalf will run about 79% routes against Trey Hawkins, which has a 60% catch rate and a 97.1% passer rating. Deontay Banks, 53.8% catch rate and a 95.4% passer rate. Right, he's positional value of a wide receiver 1 this week, according to Derek Brown over at Fantasy Pros. Again, shout out to Fantasy Pros. But taking a look at this, right, the percentage of time each defense played man coverage by week, right? We're in week 4 here. And the New York Giants, look at this, the New York Giants, 4th highest percentage of time they play man coverage. We look at DK Metcalf. This is going back all the way to 2021. DK Metcalf, the 4th highest rated by PFF, the highest rated receiver versus man coverage, a 129.2% receiver rating versus man coverage, right? We look at DK Metcalf game log this season. He's cleared the over in this 2 of 3 games. Against that first game against the Rams. The Rams. Take a look at the Rams, right? We go back to who plays the least amount of man coverage. It's the Rams. 12.2% of the time they play man coverage. The Rams play a ton of zone, right? Which we've been targeting slot receivers. DK Metcalf is not a slot receiver. DK Metcalf is he's outside. So given that, DK still finished with 47 receiving yards against the team that plays the most zone, right? And we get the team that plays the 4th most man, which, like I talked about over on Fantasy Pros, DK Metcalf is the team's best weapon. Air yard share climbs to 25%, or target share climbs from 18.4 to 25% target share, and he's at 61%, or his first rate read jumps to 30% compared to 25.9. Also, something I like as well, the New York Giants blitz the most in the NFL. Like, they blitz the most in the NFL, which should just give even more opportunity and man coverage for DK Metcalf to get that after the catch type ability, which is less coverage downfield. Also, Geno Smith led the NFL last season at deep passes, 20 or more yards down the field, passing rate of a 99.9 last season, with 846 passing yards in the air. Just absolute great opportunity here, I think, for DK at 63.5 against a team that runs, again, 4th most man coverage. DK Metcalf sees 30% target share versus man coverage. Again, minus 152 as well over on minus 154. Over on Caesars to go over 62.5. So I think both of these plays possibly have a chance to bump up. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about these 2 plays. Hopefully you have a positive Monday Night Football. Hopefully it's a good game script. I know the Giants have just been horrendous to watch on Monday Night Football. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button, you guys, and as always, let's cash.